You replay the conversation hours later, not because you're angry, because you can't remember the exact moment you agreed to something you never actually wanted. You said yes, you're almost sure you said yes, but you can't find the moment the decision was made. That's not a memory problem. That's the moment someone else's mind quietly walked into the room where your choices get made, and you never heard the door open. Here's the part that makes this so hard to see. The person doing this to you probably doesn't believe they're doing anything wrong. In their own head, they're not controlling you, they're protecting you, keeping the peace, being the realistic one in a room full of feelings. So how do you catch someone rewriting your reality when even they believe they're innocent? The first sign shows up as confusion, not conflict. You start describing your own memory with words like foggy or maybe I'm wrong. Researchers studying coercive relationships noticed this exact pattern. People doubting events they witnessed firsthand, not because their memory failed, but because someone consistently, calmly contradicted it. Not loudly, just enough times that you started editing yourself before they even had to ask. Second sign, the punishment isn't a punishment. No yelling, just a sigh, a long pause before they answer, a slightly colder, fine. You spend the next hour trying to fix a mood you can't even name. That's not sensitivity on your part. That's a feedback loop being trained into you, one quiet withdrawal at a time. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If they're not cruel, why does it work so well? Because most controlling behavior doesn't come from someone twirling a mustache and plotting. It comes from someone managing their own anxiety using you as the regulator. And the mind is remarkably skilled at making that look noble. This is where cognitive dissonance reduction quietly takes over. The gap between, I just controlled someone, and I'm a good person feels unbearable, so the brain closes that gap before it ever becomes guilt. It rewrites the story in real time. I wasn't controlling, I was protecting. I wasn't punishing, I was just hurt. The shame doesn't disappear. It gets pre-digested into justification before it ever has the chance to surface. Third sign, your friendships start needing explanations. Not because they ask directly, they'd never say, don't see her anymore. They just mention, almost lovingly, how that friend doesn't really get you, or always stirs things up. Isolation rarely announces itself. It arrives dressed as concern. Fourth sign, and this one's sharper, your wins get quietly recoded as accidents, and your mistakes get filed as character. A promotion becomes, well, they were probably just short-staffed. A bad day becomes, this is just who you are when you're stressed. One version inflates them, the other shrinks you. Both versions, somehow, always orbit around their comfort. Now here's the moment that probably reframes everything you've heard so far. That part of you that scans the room before speaking, that rehearses sentences twice before saying them out loud, that reads a shift in someone's jaw before they've said a word, you might have filed that under, I'm just anxious, or I overthink. It isn't a flaw, it's a surveillance equipment your brain built on purpose. Children raised around unpredictable moods became extraordinary at reading micro-expressions, because reading the room accurately used to be the difference between safety and chaos. That hyper-awareness wasn't weakness, it was a survival skill that worked so well, your nervous system never stopped using it, even now with someone who isn't actually dangerous, just deeply convincing. Fifth sign, the quiet one underneath all the others, you start narrating your own life through their voice before you even open your mouth. Before you make a decision, you've already pre-argued their objection in your head. That's not partnership, that's occupied territory. So where did this leave you? Not broken, just outsourced. Somewhere along the way, the part of you that used to make quick, instinctive decisions about your own life got handed to someone else for safekeeping, and you stopped noticing the handoff happened. This is the real cost, and it's easy to miss because it doesn't look like a wound. It looks like exhaustion. It looks like always being the calm one. It looks like needing someone else's reaction before you can decide how you feel about your own day. But here's the grounded part, the part worth saying clearly. Not every disagreement is control. Sometimes a sigh really is just a sigh, and someone really is just having a rough week. The goal isn't to treat everyone like a suspect. The goal is noticing the difference between someone who occasionally gets it wrong and someone whose patterns consistently shrink the space you take up in your own life. So back to that conversation you keep replaying, the one where you can't quite remember agreeing. Maybe the discomfort you feel isn't confusion. Maybe it's your own awareness, quietly knocking, trying to remind you that your instincts were never broken. They were just outvoted for a while. If this hits something close to home, there's more on this in the description, worth sitting with when you're ready.